Tennessee with a big recruiting win over the weekend. They've been taking a couple of L's, missing out on a 5-star running back and missing out on a 5-star offensive lineman. However, they flipped a key commitment on the offensive line recently, one that is huge for them going forward. Kamari Blair had committed to South Carolina back in June of this year. He is a 4-star on 247 Sports Composite, a 3-star on regular 247 Sports, but a 4-star on Rivals and on 3. Blair is an in-state player coming out of Kirkwood High School in Clarksville, Tennessee. Committed to the flip from South Carolina to Tennessee and committed over Virginia, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, and Ole Miss. How big of a deal is Kamari Blair for Tennessee long term? Well, that is the question that's a little bit tricky. Because Kamari Blair, again, who stands at 6'6", roughly 280, we don't necessarily know how valuable he is as a fringe 4-star. However, Tennessee has the number 11 ranked recruiting class right now with him. They have 23 commitments, 2 5-stars and 11 4-stars. It's difficult exactly to know how much value Kamari Blair is going to bring to this point. Part of this we'll learn with how Josh Heupel will handle and Glenn Ellerbe handles offensive linemen this year, because this year is going to be the first year that those two have to coach offensive linemen that signed with Tennessee out of high school under that staff, under this current staff. And my guess is it'll be David Sanders Jr., the freshman phenom, and then William Satterwhite. But we will see. Max Anderson and Gage Ginther are involved in that too. Kamari Blair, though, given who was recruiting him, you do have to wonder, is he just a body or does he add value that is legit? Because we don't know yet. However, I'm going to say this. Bank on it. And it's brought to you by Commercial Bank member FDIC, Life Made Better. Bank on it. Kamari Blair will be a regular rotational player in Tennessee's system. Tennessee, however, Tennessee, and this is bank on it, only landed Kamari Blair because Darius Gray committed to South Carolina, the 5-star offensive lineman they were targeting. Darius Gray committed, and then Kamari Blair flipped. So it looks like Tennessee settled for Kamari Blair. So this is Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Tennessee settled for Kamari Blair.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
The biggest reason I think Kamari Blair was a settle moment. I think Kamari Blair is an in-state guy, probably wanted to go to Tennessee. I think the reason he committed to South Carolina is Tennessee wasn't targeting him that heavily. I think they weren't targeting him that heavily because they wanted Darius Gray. I think that with Darius Gray committing to South Carolina, I think that Tennessee then decided, okay, we really do want Kamari Blair because that's our best chance to be successful. I think that succession happened, and then they went hard after Kamari Blair when they knew Darius Gray was going to commit. I think they knew Darius Gray was going to commit to South Carolina before he actually publicly committed. So that's when I think they went a little harder after Kamari Blair. And I think that because of that, it's how they were able to land Kamari Blair and sell that they flipped a 4-star from Tennessee. But I don't think this is actually good news for Tennessee because they lost Darius Gray. Now, this is where Glenn Ellerby and Josh Heupel come into play. We haven't seen how well they develop offensive linemen yet out of high school because they haven't really started anybody they signed out of high school yet. So again, we'll see more of this on the Vols this year with particularly William Satterwhite. Kamari Blair could develop into a very good player, and maybe development is all you need when you have a real deep offensive line. So with that in mind, and see, Sam, you're saying that they didn't settle. Blair said he always wanted to come to Tennessee, but that actually leads me to believe they did settle because I think they weren't recruiting Kamari Blair that hard. And then they did start recruiting him that hard once they realized they were losing ground on Darius Gray. That's because of how that whole situation went. And when you combine Darius Gray with Savion Hitter, who they also missed out on, that's a really big deal, guys. And so I don't think last week was a big recruiting win for Tennessee just because they flipped a guy from South Carolina. So I can't see that. Now, if South Carolina falls apart this year, which I don't know if they will with Lenore Sellers at quarterback, he is that good, we might be having a different story. But the success they had with Lenore Sellers down the stretch of last year, look, at some point, I've got to reset my expectations and what I thought about Shane Beamer as a coach, because as goofy as I think he is, he keeps finding these really elite players that can carry him to an above average season. And then that above average season allows him to recruit enough talent to get better as the years go on. This, for the record, is how he flipped Mazeo Bennett from Tennessee back in 2022. Spencer Rattler had an unbelievable finish to his 2022 season. He was probably cheating thanks to Connor Stallions. But nonetheless, that involved them beating Tennessee and Clemson in back-to-back weeks. And I think doing that allowed South Carolina to flip Mazeo Bennett from Tennessee. Now, Adam, you are right about this for Savion Hitter. He was never going to be worth the money. And what was Hitter going to accomplish that Sampson didn't for a lot more money? I agree with you on that. I don't think you opened the checkbook for running backs anyway. So I don't think it's a big deal that Tennessee didn't land Hitter. I didn't think they would. But losing out on Darius Gray and then settling for Kamari Blair is a different story. The one saving grace, though, as we talk about it, there is potential for Glenn Ellerby's player development. It does seem to somewhat be there, even though they haven't started a guy that they assigned out of high school yet. But it also seems true, and this is a big deal now, that guys, it does come across as if Blair might give a little bit more for Tennessee, being from Tennessee. He wanted to go to Tennessee so badly. He clearly flipped very quickly when Tennessee offered him a little more heavily. And with that in mind, I wouldn't freak out just yet about the trade-off of Blair versus Gray. I would just say that we got to acknowledge that Tennessee settled with Kamari Blair. I don't think there's any debate that they actually settled with Kamari Blair. And so, again, how this all plays out, we'll see. Tennessee right now for its 2020 recruiting class has 23 commitments. That includes 11 4-stars, 2 5-stars, 10 3-stars. Culture is a big deal on this. We can talk about it. I know you can think it's overrated, but keeping guys together is somewhat of a big deal. So we'll see how that all plays out. At least they withstood some of the losses. And I know a lot of you guys are talking about it's a 4-star versus 5-star, but guys, Kamari Blair is not. He's a fringe 4-star. He's a 3-star on regular 247 sports. So again, a fringe 4-star is different from a full-on 4-star. And I know Tennessee's having success with overachievers, undervalued kid. I wouldn't say undervalued players who turn it out to work out. That is true. But again, those stand out a lot. Who doesn't stand out are all the guys who aren't highly touted, who don't end up working out. Coming from Clarksville, I will say, for those asking, I wouldn't say Clarksville kids or Montgomery County kids are overrated get overvalued the way Nashville does. I don't think the 247 sports and the recruiting sites have too huge of a presence there, even though it's technically in the Nashville greater metro area. You could consider it that. So we'll have to see how it goes. But I do think Tennessee settled on Kamari Blair because of what happened with Darius Gray, and that's probably not the best sign going forward.